Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Service Business Mastery. We are super excited to bring on today's guests. I don't think anyone that's in the online world these are strangers to them, but we're going to talk to Amanda Triolo, and I hope I said that right. I probably should have verified that before I said the name, and Brianna Skiffington. They are the founders of CXC.ai. And CXC stands for call by call management, which has really been a topic that has come up more and more recently. It's not a new topic. It's something that's been around. It's just we haven't really formed the technology around call by call management. So we're super excited to kind of dive into, first of all, getting our audience and anyone that's listening to this
I remember
some information on what it is,
and
then how the technology plays a part.
Well, I remember 5 years ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. I do a mastermind every Friday, and the group of guys that we do it with, we try to meet like every 6 months in person at one of the shops. And we just happened to be in St. Louis at a buddy of ours shop, and he had just come back from, I want to say it was Ken Goodrich. It was somewhere. But he just was raving about this call by call management. And we were like, he had gone through the whole process of setting it up and having call by call managers and like not having comfort specialists the same way. Like just in our small world of a mastermind, it was just game changing. And so we just had to go to his shop and check out what he had going on. And it just kind of blew our minds on, what this whole call by call management was. So I'm super excited to hear their take on it and what can be possible with AI, because that's what we talk about is AI and how we can automate, delegate, optimize. And so this is going to be an interesting conversation. It's going to be difficult for us to keep this in 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already, literally, as I was going to bed last night, Tersh sent them a list of questions, which we don't normally do. Believe it or not, people think that we have a whole list of questions and we use those. We never do. And I'm sure we'll probably forget to ask most of those questions, because I was literally thinking of questions last night. I'm like, this is going to be one of the easier conversations, because there's so many things that I want to know personally, because I've heard of call by call management. I have honestly, I was trying to explain it to somebody in a Facebook group post last night. And I couldn't really fully explain it because I don't fully understand it. It's never really been a concept that I've been open to. So I'm super excited to learn more about it.
Hey, Josh, what do sea monsters eat?
I have no idea.
Fish and chips.
I'm going to start today's episode.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, ladies.
I gotta say, those 2 last photos of you look so official. It's not even funny.
That was at our very first keynote that we did. And we were talking about how AI disrupted the trades. And that is a wild slide deck to go through, because that was just in October of last year, I believe, or something like that. And we did another talk. Everything had changed when it came to AI since then.
I feel like it's week to week right now.
It is. It's
wild. Well, Google can't remember what they're naming their AI tool anymore. Right. They went from Bard to Gemini to Gemma in 3 weeks. So awesome. Well, ladies, welcome. If you guys wouldn't mind doing a quick introduction, Amanda, if we want to get started with you, and that we if our audience doesn't know who you are, do a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Amanda. I own Grasshopper Heating and Cooling in upstate New York, and we were formerly actually PMA Mechanical from 2016 to 2021. When COVID hit, we had no business overnight, so we rebranded actually with Kick Charge and went from the commercial industry to residential only, literally overnight. And in our first year, we grew almost 2,900%, and it's been sailing ever since. So I love the home service industry. I found so many incredible people and resources, and not only that, but so many people that are willing to lend a hand and help. And now, I'm really passionate about the tools that have helped me succeed and being able to give those back as well.
Amanda, can I ask you a question really quick? That transition, well, I'm not going to give you a
Yeah.
choice. That transition from commercial to residential, that's exactly what we did whenever we rebranded. And tell me about that for you. How many technicians did you have prior to going from commercial? And did those technicians stay on, or did they move
Yeah,
on
it's a
to
great
new
question.
opportunities?
So pre-COVID, I couldn't figure out how to the goal was to always get into residential, right? So I had taken over a commercial install only company that wasn't doing the greatest. And I studied a lot about the industry, learned Service Titan, and I could not figure out how to go from commercial to residential without essentially bankrupting myself by halting cash flow and halting revenue to then start to turn the wheel and start to gain some momentum. So it was a challenge, but COVID literally gave me no choice but, oh, it's happening right now, ready or not, which, you know what, I'm actually very thankful for COVID because it really forced me to be in a position to pivot and have no choice. And at the time we had 14 people, to answer your question. And of those 14 people, I have 3 remaining. And, when we rebranded, we really took a hard look at business as we knew it. And we didn't have a mission before then. We didn't have values. And once we knew who we were as a company at Grasshopper, we established a mission and values. And, I remember announcing them to the team and saying, look, there's some of you that are sitting in this room right now that don't want to grow, that don't want to be a part of change, that are not going to evolve with us. And this time next year, I can guarantee you some of you won't be here. And it's just the reality of it, Not everybody wants to evolve and change and grow with the company. And it's a matter of really nailing down your mission and your values and who you want to be. And people who are on the right bus will stay on the right bus, and people who aren't will get off the bus, but you just keep moving. But it was a challenge, and I learned a lot overnight.
Cool. I have a lot more questions, and we can talk offline about that stuff or on a different episode because that's not what we came here to talk about necessarily today.
That's right.
Even though that is very interesting. How about you, Bree?
Yeah, I've been doing marketing in the trades for probably 5-6 years now. Been marketing myself probably 10 to 12 years. And it's really become such a passion of performance advertising. Just in any other industry is not always as instantly gratifying as I can turn on ads today and generate leads today and see revenue hit the board today. And it's just so awesome. So that's been a huge passion of mine. And that kind of turned into building products over time and how we met Amanda and I and got into developing CXC. I had previously been a part of developing DataCube. So, and there's a few others that aren't public yet, but that's kind of been, a huge passion and seems to resonate with a lot of people is providing solutions for marketing, free, guidance and information, and then platforms by which we can also facilitate sharing that knowledge through, some kind of data operations for DataCube or, out in the field operations with CXC. So that's been my background and continuously pushing towards that and doing more and developing more and trying to reach as many people and help as many contractors as possible.
I was going to start with, so we mentioned call by call management and you guys have CXC. Yeah. Who wants to describe that for someone who has never heard what that is?
So it's funny because before I knew the term call by call or call by call management or call by call coaching, whatever you want to call it nowadays, right? Not this past November, the previous November, I started to see a lot of gaps and I started to see a lot of inconsistencies where, maybe you have one employee doing great, another employee's coming down here, or maybe somebody, maybe I have a tech that doesn't ever close out $0 tickets, but I have one that's closing out 8 a week, right? And I'm like, well, where's the gap here? And how do we find out how do I understand and learn the gap? So I started saying, after you're in the home, we inform, we educate. I want you to then go back out to the van and I want you to call me, right? And that's really just breaking down what happened on the call. What are you there for? What are the homeowner's needs, wants, concerns, desires, and what's the reality of their situation, right? And it's diagnosing, obviously, as you know, the home and the family, not just the system or the part that's going on. And so I know some companies like, no, I don't want to pull them out of the house. But for me, it was important for them to take a step back. Let's take a moment, debrief what is going on inside the home and what is that homeowner telling you, or what are they not telling you, or what are they expressing to you or not. I'm a big sports fan, so I use sports analogies a lot, right? Emotional intelligence, psychology are huge for me, and we spend a lot of time training as a team on that. And for my team, it was a lot of, we started on just saying, I want you to be able to evaluate, is this somebody who's not going to swing the bat? Is it going to be a first base hit? Is it going to be a double, a triple, or a home run, right? So then we started defining, well, what is a triple? What is a double? What is a first base hit? And what is a no swinger, right? And so once we defined in buckets what those were as a company, we started going into the home and speaking in that terminology, which then caused them to take a step back and evaluate the homeowner, right, itself, and like, what kind of personality type are we working with? And from there, I guess, as we call it now, call by call management, right? It's simple. So I just said a lot of words, but really it is, what are the homeowner's needs, wants, concerns, desires? How do we present in a way that they best receive that information to customize the customer experience every single time on their level, which naturally increases revenue?
So did you ever have, or do you ever have kickback with your employees or with your clients with CXC of the concern of it feeling like micromanaging the technicians?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I actually am having a PM, so one of our sales guys, and a service tech come on stage with me at True Grit in 9 days, I think, from now, so that people can ask them and have their own Q&A with them. Because I think it's important. I can say as many words as I want to. I can have as many conversations, but hearing it from my guys directly is, I think, more valuable. So to answer your question, when you've got a company with mission and values at the center of what you do, and they trust the vision and they trust their leader, that stuff is not existent, right? My team understands that I am here to help them succeed. Right outside my window is a hallway of vision boards, what their 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals are. And it's my job to help make sure that their dreams come true as well. How do we make sure their dreams come true? Well, let's align, right? These are the company's goals. This is what our goal is to hit, and we want to serve this many people in this way. But in order to do that, let's set up the structure for you as well, right? So it's a mutual, not just give to the company, and we're not taking advantage of homeowners. We're not trying to sell things they don't need. We truly are trying to inform and educate and be relational, establish that connection, and customize their customer experience. So I think for companies, I posted a similar Facebook post about call by call, I think 9 months ago, roughly. And I got a lot of, I would never do that. I would lose all my guys, and they would think that they're being micromanaged. And at that point, unfortunately, I have to say that I think that that's a culture problem.
So that's 100%. A good point you make there, because you have a great culture, but what happens if you bring on, a client with CXC and they don't have that culture built yet, but they're trying to, they know there's a problem. So like, just say that, like, it's me and I know I have a problem with my company and I just don't know what the problem is. So I'm throwing CXC at the problem. What would you say to that client? I mean, hey, before you get on here, you need to make sure your stuff's good, or you're going to lose all your clients and you're going to be back in the van yourself, or you're going to lose all your technicians. And, or is that something, how do you have that conversation, or do you have it?
Yeah. So I guess for companies, and I do actually talk to a lot of companies who are growing and want to establish a culture and mission and values. And a lot of it is starting with leading from the front. But I'm a big advocate for always starting with the why, right? Because even if you don't have that and you start with a why, and you're able to cast the vision of who you are as a company now, but where you want to get to as a company, the opportunities that you want to be able to provide not only to your people, but to your team and your community, and how they can help be a part of that and grow this thing with you. And, sometimes it's just leading transparently as well. Hey, team, we're in a rough patch right now. Okay, it's mid 50s, it's 60s in upstate New York, and we've got to be able to not turn the dial up on marketing dollars, because we can turn the dial up all we want and watch the money flow out the window. But what we need to do is we need to maximize every opportunity in front of us so that we can continue being a company that'll be here for generations to come. In order to do that, we're bringing in what's called CXE, right? CXE is designed to just dive in and help us so that you can focus on the technical. Really, that's what it's about. Technicians are technicians at heart, okay? Focus on the technical. Let CXE do the psychology for you, okay? Let CXE be able to be that reset for you on, okay, this is what I did throughout the call, but this is what the homeowner is actually saying to me. This is the personality type. This is their sentiment. This is their commitment level. And this is the way and the lens in which we should present through in which they best receive that information.
Amanda, do you feel like, so obviously you went through the rebrand back in 2021, and then obviously the culture came with it. And then I'm assuming call by call came along within the last year or so. Do you feel like it was easier for you to build the culture and then bring something like that on that kind of really changes how they approach their service calls?
Yeah, and a lot of it came with learning how to be a visionary leader as well, because you can implement as many new things as you want to, but if your people aren't bought in, or they don't trust you, or they don't understand the vision of the company, you are going to lose people. Okay. You're going to lose people, and then you're going to have people resentful, and then you're going to have people feeling like they're being micromanaged because they just don't understand, which it's not their fault. It's our fault at that point, right?
Absolutely. So Bree, as you're listening to this, and obviously I think we discussed before the show, you guys work together from a marketing company standpoint at your previous role. You know, how did this come about as far as like deciding that, hey, we could turn this into an AI tool that can help hundreds or thousands of contracting companies?
Yeah, totally. I mean, look, that's always the vision, right? Is like, why would you build one thing for one problem for one person when you can solve it for people in mass, right? So it really, started as like an Amanda challenge, but was something that she quickly was like, every company, every contractor could benefit from this. So why would we not make it available to everybody? And really, like, the initial version of CXE is her processes. And obviously she has a lot of clout in the industry and a lot of following and fangirls and fanboys, and it's awesome. And so, when she puts her name behind something, it's really, people want to be able to replicate what she's achieved at Grasshopper. So we were looking for a way to extend that, really. I mean, it started as a, call by call is a really big time burden on her calendar. I mean, it took up a lot of her day, and we got into a conversation about that because obviously as her marketer, you want to be able to work closely with your client, understand their objectives, and, get time to, go over creative and go over performance and all that. And time was a challenge for her. So we really just got into a conversation of, well, why is time such a challenge for you? What's taking up so much of your time? And she was like, listen, I took on call by call management at my company. I actually barely knew what it was at the time, but was messing with ChatGPT a lot, trying to figure out ways to utilize it for marketing. And it really became evident when she started talking that the process was consistent enough that you could actually build something through AI to be able to facilitate it for you and get pretty awesome results. So that was the beginning of it. And, ever since, it's just about making it better and making it more available to different contractors and making it more flexible too, making it so that it's not just her processes. What if somebody, she also is adapting her processes over the years. She's jumped into Service MVP in the last 6 months or so. So, she's of course wanting to evolve her processes. So we decided, part of that needs to be adding in that flexibility to make it not only, one way of doing call by call, but really anything and everything you need it to be, and just the facilitator of training your technicians.
So Bree, let me ask you this, because I'm sure Amanda gets asked this all the time, and I'd like to hear your perspective on it. That would be, it's more common than I'd say not, that contractors and people in general, maybe it's just guys, I don't know. It's definitely the guys I talk to. They look for a silver bullet. They're like, all right, this is it. Like, if this is what Amanda has and I can replicate her business, sign me up.
Sure.
Is that, I feel like that can also set some unrealistic expectations for you to uphold on your end as well.
For sure. I mean, look, that's a huge, expectation to carry, but
Right.
That's why we have put so much work into it, is to build it out into something that's not just reflective of one element of her processes, but to let her be able to evolve that over time and facilitate it to any client who signs up, and have it be able to cover more than one experience, right? Like, it's not just going to be the interaction, the sole interaction of the technician going into the house and getting out to the van, right? It's going to also cover the presentation. It's going to cover the pre-call. It's going to cover, we're going to create it to reach as many points as possible through the, through line that is built into it, which is recording interactions and then being able to provide feedback in real time on those interactions, so that any part of the customer experience really is able to be supported by CXC and replicate what she's been able to achieve and implement in her company, right? But yes, there is no one silver bullet. Of course, there's so many things you have to be able to do and get right? But that is just one of them, and we're going to make it as applicable and easy to implement as possible.
Yeah.
So how does
if I can jump in?
Oh, go ahead, Maria.
Okay.
Sorry, Josh. If I can jump in real quick, like a full disclaimer, I am not a part of any best practices group. I did not learn from a best practices group. I really learned through studying the shit out of the industry, the home service industry. I would go look at websites across the United States and beyond of home service companies. I'd look at their Google pages. I'd look at their Facebook presence. I'd look at the owner's Facebook presence. So, and to answer your question about the silver bullet, right? Call by call was the game changer for us in terms of performance as a company. Okay, I can tell you that much. From there, the second best business decision I made was partnering with Service MVP. The product that we've created, partnering CXC with Service MVP, is such a game changer. Like, look, I love Uncle Joe, and I know he's fine with me saying this. It's like $180,000 a year to partner with him to learn pure motives and what he teaches, but he teaches pure brilliance, number one. Number two is, as a company, that's a big investment. So how do you make that investment worthwhile and then make it something that is accountable, and then duplicate it every single time? Not only that, but you have your team following the process. So this tool that we've created with Service MVP, it's not going to be the first one. Connecting coaches and companies is what I like to also say CXC stands for, because it's much more than just call by call. I think once you evolve and you understand call by call, and I do believe that call by call is a movement in the home service industry, but once you evolve and you really want to revolutionize the industry or your company, it's then taking that call by call and that CXC tool and innovating that with whatever the training group or best practices group that you partner with is. That is game changing, full accountability at the core.
Well, I love what you're saying about one, you, Bree, I'm sure you can maybe sympathize or empathize. We've been on the marketing world. Like, there's a lot of times when, like right now, we talked before the show, it's 50, 60 degrees outside. Like, there's very little amount of marketing that's going to do anything for you today. The operations of your business, the using every single call that comes in and maximizing that opportunity by making sure everyone is following the process to a T is the only way to really get through this process. That, and obviously having a really strong base of customers that love you by providing great service and having a brand. This has been a very mild winter. I've talked to some people. It's like one of the top 5 warmest winters they've ever had. It's just, there's not the volume that they're used to getting, and having that where they are taking control versus like, well, I don't know, my phone's not ringing, so I'm not really sure what we're going to do today. And kind of sitting down, but
everybody sweep the warehouse.
It's like, well, I guess we're going to do training today, or you guys are going to go home at 11 because we don't have anything going on. And that's what I love is you found a way to take control, and it makes everything work so much better. And then you're going to have things for your team to do because you guys are consistent day to day, week to week, month to month, and so on.
I'm sorry, real quick. What he just said is perfect. Exactly what you just said is exactly why CXC exists, right? It's not meant to be a micromanagement tool. It's not meant for the owner to have a scorecard and the technician. It is a tool that helps you right now maximize every single opportunity. Look, Grasshopper has a word in 2024, and it's execute. My entire leadership team right now is leading from the front out in the field if they need to on ride-alongs, and we're using that with CXC. We're continuing to grow CXC to the levels we need it to just be a freaking even more game changer, but it is a tool, okay? It's a tool to help you in times like this especially.
How does it work? Like, is it something that's on your phone? Is it something else? Like, how
And
does it
how's
work?
AI
What are-
involved in it?
So it's an app on your phone. So the technicians are able to just, before they're pulling up to the house, hit record, walk in. Every interaction with the customer is basically being recorded and analyzed, right? They say, I'm going to go prepare some options. They go out to the truck, they hit end. Essentially, in the next up to 2 minutes, essentially, it processes the whole recording, pulls a transcript, and then runs it through an AI analysis that we've developed specific and fine-tuned specifically for each of the different processes that we've built into the sales bot. Essentially, it's going to be one of many, but essentially that sales bot in its current form is giving a response that says to the technician, okay, based on your conversation, the customer's concerns are this, their personality type is that, and based on that, here's what we recommend from your price book that you should be talking to the customer about and their intent level to be able to pursue that, right? It's also stacking on with the service MVP processes now that have more to do with, the experience they're providing, such as, how many times did you say thank you to the customer? Did you create a magic moment? Did you say their name enough times in the frequency of the conversation? So that's where the AI comes in and pairs with the recording and analyzes things in your CRM, your price book, to be able to coach them almost as effectively and eventually more effectively than a human can. Especially like in scalability, obviously, it allows you to infinitely scale without having to have, 10 different CXC managers.
Is it able to learn the personality of the client in that time period?
Yeah, absolutely. So
how long does that conversation need to happen? Does it, because we all know, like, sometimes it's like, hey, what's the problem? All right, where's your thermostat? Like, that's not right, but that's how it happens sometimes. And so what's that time frame that you need to have that conversation to figure that out?
Yeah, Amanda's service calls, I believe they're typically an hour to an hour and a half. I mean, they're very thorough. They are, having a deep conversation with the customer, informing and educating, right? So she's a prime candidate to be able to run this kind of data and expect accurate results, right? But we are seeing with some of the betas that we're running, some people aren't as thorough, right? So you want to pair it with some of the best practices. Obviously, we have a lot of that information in our knowledge base already, just to make it as effective as possible. But I would say there's been conversations as short as 20, 30 minutes that we'll still see an output and be like, damn, that is impressive, right? I don't know. Amanda, you can speak to more of the hands-on.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I can put it to you this way. We tested it out by role-playing in my home a lot with technicians, from door knock to presenting options. And I am an INTJ on the Myers-Briggs scale. I don't know if you know what that means, but I'm hella weird.
I do.
Throwing that out there. And the crazy thing is there was a 8-minute recording on one of them, and the 8-minute recording picked up that I am an ENTJ, which in the recording, I actually was more extroverted than I would have been introverted. And I was like, oh, my mind was blown, because it picked up ENTJ, but really I'm an INTJ. So I think as long as you've got enough communications in there, of course, you can't have a 3-minute conversation with minimal words and think that you're going to get a proper output,
So how about the technician?
Just
look at their retinas. What about the technician? Because when we're going through the consultation fee and the actual diagnosis of the entire home, there is some time where the technician is by themselves. Is that time also being gathered, that content? Because I've been the fly on the wall on some of those, and they can be colorful conversations. And so, like, how is that handled whenever something like that happens?
That's a good question. So there's going to be times when if somebody's talking to themselves, right, it'll at least distinguish that it's a technician and they're talking to themselves, right? But we have built in some fail safes to be able to look for things like, are we recording when the technician starts playing music because they're working on a unit, right? Okay, no, obviously, if the iPhone is being used to transmit music, we should not be recording the lyrics and analyzing that as part of the call, right? Same thing with, if they take a call from their girlfriend, right? Like, okay, that conversation isn't going to be recorded and put in the transcript, right? So there's a few different fail safes to account for things like that. But for the most part, we've not had issues with a technician excessively talking to themselves and that influencing anything on the other end of the how that's going to affect the recommendation for the homeowner.
But on the
So,
flip
man,
side, we do encourage them to talk to themselves with readings, what they're doing through the process, because CXC is eating that up. And it is able to then, obviously, I mean, the results, when you've got a technician that is willing to talk to themselves through their diagnosis or through what they're doing in the system, the response is that much more powerful. So on the flip side, it can be brilliant.
So then that's a
actually-
justification for me, because like I'm always having meetings with my, I'm self-employed, so having company meetings all the time. And so now I can that's my excuse. I got to talk to them.
It'll give you your own summary of whatever you talked about.
Hey,
the
I
worst
like
thing that
that.
you ever did, Tersh, was download Voxer because you talk to yourself but send it to me.
I do. So
Man,
I
I
get
have
to
a
talk to
question for
Josh.
you. So you're in New York. New York is probably one of the more liberal states like California when it comes to different laws and stuff like that. And this is
Recording.
something I know that we've heard before when it comes to, being recorded. What type of information do we have to provide the homeowner? What insight do you guys have on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have an attorney that's versed in every state. So depending on where we've got somebody signing up for CXC, we can absolutely let them know the deal in their state. New York is a one-party consent state, right? So that means my technician is the consenting party. However, what we do is we inform them on the original phone call that comes in, and we use Phones Pro, so every call is recorded. We get confirmation from them via phone, and then we also have a paragraph that we refer back to on every estimate invoice that they sign off on, just letting them know the technology we use, why we use it, and that it exists.
Have you had any pushback on that?
That's what I was
Anything
gonna
that's
say.
come about that, like lost any customers or just anything weird like that?
No, there was one situation where a homeowner didn't feel comfortable being recorded, which is totally fine. I mean, we're not there to, push it. Obviously, so on the flip side, we all talk about call by call, but there's a flip side of that too, and it's called liability, right? I never understood why your CSRs, all of our CSRs are recorded, but the actual experience that happens in the home where you're dealing with life and death is not recorded, and it's just a big question mark or invoice notes that the technician filled out themselves.
Yep.
So on the flip side, it is liability. If I have a technician who, say last week, they did not get, we didn't hear them go through, testing the blower motor, what amps it's pulling. Okay, so from there, if I have a technician who didn't, and you call in with a no heat tomorrow, and I can't refer back and prove that my technician followed the process, well, guess what? One of our values is we serve above and beyond every time. The other is we do what is right, even when right is hard. So they get a free blower motor on us because we failed. On the other side to that, there's something called, for some reason, homeowners want to take advantage of contractors. 4 or 5 months ago, we installed a 3-zone ductless mini split. Homeowner called in saying that she purchased a 4-zone mini split and was furious. So we were able to pull the CXC recording. A 4-zone was never even spoken about. So we let her know, okay, we can pull the recording and everything. All of a sudden it was like, oh, you guys are great. I'm sure it was just my misunderstanding. And it's like mind-blowingly crazy. But we have seen it work for so much good. And I know that there's a perception sometimes of people being recorded, but we use it for the good, and we use it to uphold our values as a company as well.
No, that's awesome. I think that's it. You made great points about the liability aspect, because we all see those groups where people are posting the 1-star review and how terrible the customer is, but we have no way. Like, there's no way. It's just she said, and that's all it is, and you can't get past that because there is no recording, because they're in the home, and whatever's said in the home is, at least until recently, has kind of been out of sight, out of mind. You can't.
It's funny.
Exactly.
Stephanie Allen and I had a very long conversation about this exact situation at Tommy Mello's event. And by the way, she's a huge advocate for y'all. I mean, she's just sang y'all's praises nonstop.
Well, she's in California, and I think she was a former
She's
attorney.
a lawyer. Yes.
Yeah.
And so and that's what she was laughing about. She's like, yeah, I talked to Dad about it, and like, we're wording it this way. We have to get consent every time. And basically she said something very similar to what you said, Amanda. And I thought that was a great idea, like, that we don't do anyways. Like, we don't mention that. Like, we say, yes, your calls may be recorded, but we don't say anything to the extent of your entire interaction with Service Emperor may be recorded for training purposes or something to that extent. And I thought that was a really cool thought process. And I was like, oh, well, since you're a lawyer, I'll do it. So you'll be liable otherwise. And she said,
The
no.
perfect beta tester for that. It was definitely made us like level up, measure up. And she was actually our first beta tester in a 2-party consent state. So, that was awesome. She's been instrumental in helping us work through that. But
so Uriah asked a question here, and I don't 100% understand it because it was a few minutes ago that he asked this question. I think he said, does it tell them to do what they don't do?
Tell them what to do or what not to do?
Yes.
It's kind of the way I read that question.
I would say from the perspective of the sales bot as it exists, it absolutely is guiding them through how to go back and present the options to the customer, right? Based on the customer's needs, wants, personality type, and how they best receive information. What's really cool about it, though, is that is just one bot of many that will be available as we go throughout the year here in early Q2, where we'll release some more features, some more updates. I can't get too deep into the details, but we can say there will be multiple bots and multiple options so that you're not just contained to a sales bot for selling text or salespeople, but an install bot, right? Or an operations bot to be able to go through checklists and things like that to ensure that they're able to, match through the processes, compare it to ServiceTitan, make sure they uploaded pictures and, followed all of the processes that you implement, whatever they are, right? So you'll have the opportunity to do beyond just sales.
So you would have the integration within like most all the CRMs to ensure that they actually followed you did your checklist and you did all your pre-report call. Well, obviously you'd have that recorded, but like mainly pictures for me, and actually put your model and serial number in there and you attached it to the job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And on the flip side of that too, what's coming with Gen 2, to the point of does it tell them to do what they don't do, is if you've got standards as a company, pretty soon you're going to be able to customize your own CXE bot for that purpose and pair not only what the CXE bot does, but also be able to, if as owner or management, what your expectations are for process, it will highlight that. Yes.
What's the limitations?
The sky, there are none.
I mean,
so
that's the thing, is that you can train it with anything.
So
right?
as
whatever knowledge you want.
I don't know. I have no idea what the pricing structure or anything like that is. We haven't had the conversation. Is there because even like say with ChatGPT, there's a limit to how many times you can do a prompt in a time frame and all that good jazz. And if you go over a certain amount of tokens, and you have to pay, and some of that stuff becomes foreign, they make it difficult to understand on purpose. I get it. Does there become a limit with technicians as to how long that can be recorded? Because I can imagine, sure, recording in between. I mean, you have calls, a service technician might have 4 calls a day and they're recorded, but you still have breaks in between them. But if you have an installer that's being recorded for 8, 10 hours, 12 hours, that can get pretty extensive in the recording side of things and analyzing.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, we're built for scale, right? So we are, and we're also not exclusive to ChatGPT. It's just, they happen to be the best available at the moment. But, there's chatter that there will be, others that potentially will exceed them this year. But no, there's certainly not a limit at the moment. And I would say even still, like with the install side of things, it's like if you're installing, you're probably not going to have a very long transcript. You might go through the checklist, for example, like, yep, I checked this, I did that, measured this, took a picture of that, whatever, obviously, and you can pull things from ServiceTitan. So it's not just exclusive to the text in a transcript. That's one of many things the bot can interact with and check off, right? So I would say that, and obviously, like the other aspect of that is pricing. So favorite topic, want to get into that real quick, is this is going to be priced in a usage-based way. So that is something that is going to shake up the market in the sense that, like, you're not having to sign up for tech licenses and prepay for them and commit to a year. Like, that's ridiculous. What we're actually doing is making this usage-based so you can use it or not use it as much as you want. It's month to month, and it'll be based on how many essentially how many tokens or whatever are consumed through whatever model we're using and priced per model. It's not just going, and it's not going to be in some, hard to understand way where it's like, you're paying for this many tokens. It's like, no, it's like price per job based on the length of the transcripts and the average, right? So.
Okay. Well, we talked about this real briefly before we came on here, and I'm hoping you guys are fine tackling this question, but Dwayne asked about the difference, because obviously there's AI technology that's coming out in the marketplace, and it's causing a lot of conversations, which is good because it's moving us forward. He asked how this is different from real voice. Are you guys okay taking that question?
Absolutely. So I am very much of the mind that we only compete with ourselves. So while I'm certainly familiar with some of the aspects of real voice and how it, you could say that there's some overlaps, right? It's not at all like what we're trying to achieve and do. And our mission is much broader than just the initial virtual ride-alongs, right? Like this is going to transcend ride-along interactions and go into presentations, operations, phone calls. So while there may be some overlap now, I'm confident that it's not even going to be necessarily considered a competitor in a year from now, right? We're just going in a completely different direction, really shaking things up and being innovative. And while I can't expose everything that's coming out, here on this call, I can assure you that at least try it, compare, do it yourself. We're made in such a way where you can just dabble and test it out. Confident you'll see the difference. And, I'll also emphasize we are real time. So your techs will receive the responses and be able to take action immediately while they're still at the home, not,
That's
that
cool.
part of it with the whole,
later.
like within 2 minutes, let's say we have an hour-long thing between a homeowner and before we get to the part where we go in the truck, and within 2 minutes to be able to do all of that,
right?
It's pretty wild. Like even a human, like that would, I mean, think about it. A human like has to would have to listen to something and try to pick up cues, or even if it's like, so for instance, on Zoom, we use Fathom, which kind of helps us get to like the point of the conversation we want to get to and then listen to that. Even that would take probably longer than the time it would take to transcribe and put this assessment to, if you will, together. So that way we can actually use it.
That exactly. This was really important to us, that it was a real-time thing to replicate the conversation you'd have with the call-by-call manager and be just as impactful, if not more impactful, right? So you have to be able to give that feedback right then and there while they're in the home in real time to make it actionable. It's not like for a one-on-one aggregate tech assessment, a week later when you're saying, oh, here's how you, whatever. It's like, no, we need this information right here, right now. So that was critical to us.
The only other thing I'll add to that is I do come from the humble beginnings, and, paying upfront for a year per technician is not something that favors the small contractor that does want to grow and have proper accountability and tools in place. So our month-to-month usage basis is for the small contractors and contractors. You go through seasonality, whether we like to admit it or not. There are heights of the seasons and there's lows of the season. So making it usage-based means that, while you're in a low, you're not going to be paying that same amount, on that year basis there. And it doesn't require a big upfront fee from them, nor a big scary commitment when you're just trying to grow.
Yeah, as a contractor, I can definitely appreciate that for sure.
Well, I would assume that would be like one of the questions, because we're all familiar with software. I mean, because software companies literally are popping up on every corner these days, right? It's like CVS or Walgreens. It's like they're everywhere. Ones we've
more
never
like
heard
Dollar
of.
General, because like they literally are everywhere, like on the moon.
And we have been working on this for over a year. And could we have released this 8 months ago? Yeah, absolutely, we could have, but we really need to understand our vision as a company in the tool, and really the focus of where we wanted to get to as a company, but a tool for the home service industry and beyond. And so we appreciate everyone's patience, because we know it's been a little bit of a long time coming, but we're firm believers. You only get one chance to make a good first impression, and we are confidently ready and moving forward. And Gen 2 will be piggyback on it in the next, I think, 45 days or so.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's all.
So where's it launching? Tell the people.
Oh, Gen 1 is launching on stage at True Grit, 9 days, Memphis. Can't wait.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Josh and I will not be at True Grit, unfortunately. We will.
There's like three events in the same week.
We'll be in ACA. I'll be in ACA, and Josh will be in
Epic,
California.
I think the industry needs to get together and figure out these events and start staggering them.
A big calendar going on here.
The same thing happened at Service World. There was like Nexstar Super Meeting was like across town in Phoenix, while Service World Expo was going. I'm like, did nobody talk? Does nobody look at the calendar?
We appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we have tons more questions, but we would like to honor your time, and just truly, we are thankful for y'all to come and hang out with us, answer our questions.
Where's the best place for anyone that has additional questions to reach out to you guys or your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. My email is amanda@cxe.ai.
Mine is BRI at cxe.ai. And also pretty responsive via Facebook DMs. Always in there chatting it up.
DM Bree on Facebook. I don't check my Facebook DMs often because I do get a lot of them, but Bree is great with Facebook.
I don't check Facebook at all.
One is coming.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Thank you again, and thank you for everybody
ladies.
who's hanging out and the comments in the chat. For those of you who are hanging out with us, we hope you have a wonderful and safe week until we talk again next time on the Service Business Mastery Podcast. Thank you again. See you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit ServiceBusinessMastery.com to learn more.